Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Robert Allen, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Leading Aircraftsman Matthew Evans. This evening, we warmly welcome the family of Private Henry Alfred Cressy, whose story will be told shortly. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by family and visitors to the memorial. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem. If able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private Henry Alfred Cressy. Henry Cressy was born on the 5th of December 1893 in Tamworth, New South Wales. Known as Harry, he was one of 10 children born to ironworker Broham Cressy and his wife Anne. Harry grew up in the Newcastle region, moving there with his family when he was a child. He received his education at a local public school and later became a prominent member of the local football team. At the outbreak of the First World War, Harry was working as a locomotive driver for the Sulphide Corporation Works at nearby Cockle Creek. Henry Cressy enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force on the 16th of August 1915. He was assigned to reinforcements of the 1st Battalion alongside his brother Edward, who had enlisted a day earlier. The brothers completed a short period of training together before being farewelled by their community at an event in which they were each gifted a sheepskin vest and a balaclava. The brothers embarked for active service from Sydney on the 20th of December 1915, sailing on board the troop ship Aeneas. Private Cressy arrived in Egypt in early 1916. In February, the Cressy brothers were transferred to the ranks of the newly formed 54th Battalion during a period of expansion in the AIF. They continued training together in Egypt until June 1916, when they embarked for the Western Front. After a week-long voyage, the Cressy brothers arrived in the French port city of Marseille. From there, they were immediately sent forth to the Franco-Belgian border, which had once been the site of bitter fighting. Now comparatively quiet, this area of the front became known as the nursery sector, as it was where new troops were introduced to the rigours of trench warfare. After spending a few days in the front lines, Cressy's unit was called into action near the village of Fromelles. It was here that he would take part in his first and last major action of the war. The battle was intended as a feint to prevent German reserves from moving south to take part in the Battle of the Somme. Ordered to attack strongly fortified enemy positions near the Aubers Ridge, the Allied advance was preceded by a 7-hour bombardment. It was designed to destroy the German front line and allow the troops to take their objectives largely unopposed. When the battle began in broad daylight, advancing units quickly realised that not only had the artillery been almost useless, but it also served to warn the enemy of an impending attack. As they jumped the parapet, Allied troops were quickly cut down in waves by murderous machine gun and artillery fire from German troops who had taken cover during the earlier bombardment. Though some men made it to their objective, they were quickly forced to withdraw and were again caught under heavy fire during their retreat. By the time the battle was called off, the 5th Division alone had suffered over 5,000 casualties in the attack, which has been remembered as the worst 24 hours in Australian history. Among these casualties was Private Harry Cressy, who was killed in action during the attack on Fromelles. His brother Edward survived the battle despite being badly wounded. From hospital, Edward wrote to his parents in Bullaroo, telling him he had been separated from Harry, who was killed as he reached the German trench. Private Cressy's final resting place was not uncovered until more than 90 years later, when a mass grave was discovered near Pheasant Wood, just outside Fromelles. There, the bodies of 250 Allied soldiers were exhumed and identified using DNA samples from their descendants. Cressy was given a military funeral on the 19th of July 2010 and now lies at Pheasant Wood Military Cemetery. He was 22 years old. Henry's name is listed on the roll of honour at my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Henry Alfred Cressy, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the director, staff and volunteers, we thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support of the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you.